I'm Mr. MegaManFan. Welcome back to Genesis Does, and we are taking a look at Crackdown. You'll notice this week's episode did not start with a box or a cartridge because I do not own a physical copy of this game. It certainly has been ported to a lot of systems, though. It was released in arcades. Atari ST computers got it. Commodore Amiga got it. The Amstrad CPC got it. Commodore 64 and MS-DOS versions exist. There is even a port to the ZX Spectrum. Crackdown, 2 words, not one, has been a lot of places, but as Genesis does, Nintendon't, because it was never released on a Nintendo system in the contemporary era. And only later, much later, did it come to Wii Virtual Console in Japan, August 2007, and in PAL regions, September 2007, apparently never on a North American Virtual Console. But that would be ironic considering US Gold was the one who ported it to almost everything. Then again, if you know the history of US Gold, the name itself is misleading because it's actually a British video game publisher. Why they chose that name, I've never known, never understood, but they may have been gold in the US for certain profitability, but they were not based there. I'm kind of getting off the point, aren't I? Well, the story is that an evil artificial intelligence is attempting to destroy the world. Or perhaps I should say, de-story the world. This game has a typo in the opening title sequence, which may or may not be indicative of the title of this property. But basically, what you're doing in Crackdown is searching through a very small, confined set of maze paths to pick up items and take out enemy robots as you are ultimately trying to blow up each level by crossing over specific red X's. When you do that, you set a timer and it starts ticking down. And if you don't complete the level before it ticks down, that's going to cost you. You will get no bonus points, and you will get, I believe you lose a life when that happens, but to be honest, the one time I did run out of time during this playthrough, I didn't even know if I lost a life or not because it just took me on to the next stage, so make of that what you will. Crackdown, breakdown, you're busted. Yeah, this game is kind of busted in and of itself. It's got a typo that's so obvious I can't believe it was overlooked in localization. It's got gameplay that's borderline to being bad. I won't call it awful. I won't even say it's bad. It's just banal because it's just okay. Let me try to find a proper way to explain this. There's a stealth element to it because the enemies can fire bullets at you even when you don't have a gun or any kind of weapon and you can only punch them. So until you get that gun, you need to avoid their enemy fire. But it's very hard to do because even if you shoot at them and try to run away, their bullets continue to travel for a very long distance and very slowly at that. So you can't just avoid their fire, and if you're too close to them, you can't even time it. You just have to sneak around them or use a smart bomb to take out all the enemies on the screen at one time. And it is extremely frustrating until you get a gun. But even when you get a gun, it doesn't necessarily get that much better because you're still forced to reckon with the fact that as you're shooting them, they're shooting you. So even if you kill them, you can still be hit by enemy fire. So it's like they took the stealth elements of Metal Gear, but did it in a incredibly unpalatable way. The very small graphics on the screen make it pretty obvious why this was ported to so many home computers because you can practically see the tiles for each individual element. Large sprites? No. More like tiny sprites. It's like Chip's Challenge all up in here. This feels like a PC game on the Genesis from the very beginning. I mean, just look at how small your playfield is. It's 1/4 of the screen. Now, I get that they were trying to give you additional information about the enemy types to show you a map with a layout of the maze in the upper half, and to keep your score on the left side, or if you're doing two-player on the right side as well. But God, there had to be a better way than just limiting you to this tiny little window with these incredibly tiny sprites. Okay, that's enough bitching. Let's give the positives. The music, it's not too shabby. It's got a little bit of bass to it, and it's certainly not the worst thing I've ever listened to while playing a video game. It's nothing you're going to be humming to yourself later on, but it's somewhat memorable. It's just not like Sonic 3 levels of memorable. It's definitely... you won't release a soundtrack of this on vinyl. Let me just put it that way. So, okay. Decent music. Sound effects, serviceable. Certainly nothing to write home about there. The music is far better than the sound effects. It's just generic white noise and ohs when you die. You know, there's nothing that screams creativity. The design of the levels, well, it's pretty easy to navigate them. You don't have to guess where you're going most of the time. You make almost all of your progression from left to right looking for the red X's. The only thing you have to do is be aware of the enemies that shoot at you and either smart bomb them or avoid them until you can get a bead on them and shoot them without getting shot back, which sounds easy in theory, but it's very hard to do in practice, and you can lose multiple lives in a hurry from one enemy because you respawn at the exact same place you died. Even though you get like a second or two of invincibility when you respawn, sometimes that just isn't even enough to get into position to take out the enemy before they hit you again. So it's a very much trial and error kind of game with a significant amount of error. And at some point, you start to ask yourself, is the juice worth the squeeze? I can see what they were going for. It's a little bit Metal Gear. It's a little bit Batman on the PC Engine, where you have to go through small corridors and pick up items to progress through the maze from one to the next. I like saying in cases like this, there's certainly a possibility this could have been done well. I do enjoy the mechanic of being rewarded for how much time you have left on the bombs. Getting extra points for speeding through the level is rewarding, if only you could actually do it on a consistent basis. If you haven't memorized these levels, good luck with that. It's just an overall mediocre experience, which is why I don't think it gets talked about very much. I also think it's why I don't own a physical copy of Crackdown. You know, the bottom line at the end of the day is, if you wanted to cram Gauntlet and Metal Gear together, A for creativity, F for playability, C overall grade. It's just not something I think you need to go out of your way to buy. It's not the most expensive, but it's certainly not cheap. Loose, it's going to cost you about $18. Complete, close to $30. New, if you're that crazy and you'd want to play a game in emulation only and never even open the box, that's $43. So spend accordingly if you're spending at all. But for me, Crackdown would be one of those ones that I would wait to see a bargain on. Like, if it was in a lot of games that I didn't have and there was only one or two duplicates, maybe I'd pick it up and then sell out the duplicates and keep Crackdown. But it's not something I'd go out of my way to buy singly for the high amounts that it seems to go for, because I can only guess low print run is the reason it commands those kind of values, because it's certainly not because the game is some kind of classic that's been widely hailed as an all-time great. I feel like I'm the first one who's even talked about Crackdown. I know that can't be true. I'm sure there's some world of long play for Crackdown that's covered this game. I'm sure one of my faithful subscribers, and thank you to all 1,200 plus of you, has fond childhood memories of this game, or maybe did the 2-player co-op mode in college and really had a ball with it. Look, I'm not here to deny your experience. In fact, please share your comments if you enjoyed Crackdown far more than I did, because I gave this my good faith effort. My cat repeatedly interrupted my gameplay to the point I had to stop and restart several times, which accounts for a couple of minutes of extra footage that was at the beginning of this video where I simply walked away while it was recording to go feed him and came back, which gave you plenty of time to see the intro sequence and its typo, "Destroy" instead of "destroy." And even when I came back and really buckled down and tried to play Crackdown well, I only got about 4 stages into it before I eventually just had all I could take of it and said, enough's enough. This game isn't very good. I don't think it's worth investing in getting better at it. That's all. And, well, now I'll just tell you that I'm appreciative of each and every one of you who subscribes to this channel. Thank you. It's been an interesting ride so far. 1,200 plus is not anywhere I expected to be, because for the longest time I was hovering around 300 subscribers, and I was actually monetized back then, but because YouTube changed their policy to 1,000 subscribers and over 4,000 watch hours viewed, I had to start all over again from scratch. They don't let you grandfather in monetization if you were already monetized. You have to regain those goals. So I've got the 1,000 plus now, but I'm still working on those 4,000 hours. I'm up to about 2,300 as I'm recording this, and without all of you who are subscribers to the channel who watch Genesis Does every Thursday night at 8 p.m. Eastern, I couldn't be doing what I'm doing right now. So thank you for your support in checking out these games along with me and watching me fail to get to the exit even after I've set all the bombs. And here's what I mean when I say it gives you progression even if you fail, because I can't tell if I lost a life here or not. It just seems to take me to the next stage and start all over again. So did I die? Did I lose a life? I don't know, you tell me. So I just had to pause the voiceover for a second because my AC kicked on and I didn't want the white noise going over the video. So while I was waiting, I checked out some System 24 arcade footage, and that version of this looks a whole lot better than the Genesis version. It's got much bigger play fields. You can more easily avoid the enemy fire because you can move in the larger play field in diagonals. You can shoot in multiple directions. You can easily dodge enemy fire by moving behind obstacles, and the graphics that animate the timer for the explosions are so much better. I'd say play this one on MAME instead of Genesis. I'm Mr. MegaManFan. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.